what do I do? Right. So I went to my first networking event in person, and I got to tell you, it was the most awkward thing I've ever been to. It was hilarious. Like, it just was like, everybody like felt like they were like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to say up here and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, wow, interesting, And then I discovered social networking, went to a couple random people at first, and then found a massive networking organization at the time that was really, really great, and started networking all over the United States and then all over the world. And I was like, man, this is really cool because you never know who knows who. You know what I mean? It's literally a huge, massive networking journey.
Reinventing yourself in business. That's the subject of today's chapter in the Business Library. And our guest today, Nick Davis, took the word pivot quite literally. So you have to keep watching to find out what we mean by that. And today's episode is, of course, sponsored by a free course on content marketing. So if you want to get some insights on how you can start with your content marketing strategy, click the link below. All of Nick's links will also be down there. So if you hear something you like, you want to check them out down there as well. But to start us off, Nick, what actually made you decide what you wanted to do for business?
Man, so I guess the basic, I would say probably the easiest way to put it is just like every other business owner and just like every creator, innovator, so on and so forth, it comes from a need of some sort, right? So health insurance in the United States is pretty nuts, right? And when my division closed at my previous engineering firm that I was with, I have triplets, 3 little girls, and I need to have insurance for them and stuff. And so when I left the company that I was with, and we had PPO coverage, which means we can go to any hospital, doctor, medical facility, so on and so forth, and we can pick who we go to as opposed to being assigned a person, so on and so forth. When I figured out that wasn't available outside of the company that I was with, and the only thing that was available in the state that I lived in were plans that were very closed network and very small, and they only worked in the state of Texas. I became a little concerned and did an intensive amount of research. I went to literally every O in Google, as a matter of fact, and I couldn't find at the time any reputable information at all online. And so, hey, I'm used to being inundated with unholy amounts of tests, so why not, right? So I did all my, testing certifications, fingerprinted by the FBI, regulated by the Federal Trade Commission, and like...
What fingerprints by the FBI? What does that
oh my God. Okay, so this is a fun one, right? So side note, right? So I'm doing all of this information just to figure out why there's no PPO plans in Texas. That's totally the reason, right? And then a slew of things come after that, right? The fingerprinting part is hilarious though, because it was like, here I am at the, they're like, oh, you got to go get fingerprinted and da 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 da. And I'm like, weird. Okay, that's fine. So I go to the little fingerprinting place or whatever. There's like third-party standalone situations, and like I can't even make this up. I'm like sitting in the chair. They're like, oh, Mr. Davis, you're up. I'm like, okay, cool. So I go to this little kiosk. This lady's got this like gigantic standing computer situation with totally a lot of stuff going on. Little fingerprint pad. And as I'm doing the fingerprinting thing, I'm like, just before I start, I was like, guys, just want to let you know, like, I'm not opposed to the fingerprinting thing. It doesn't bother me by any means, but I'm just really, really curious for pure reason of curiosity, like, why, right? And then I am dead serious. Some dude, it just happened. I'm sure it was complete coincidence. This guy in a black and white suit, just literally pokes his head around the corner, like moves a curtain. He's like, Nicholas, people's lives will be in your hands. This is a very serious thing. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. It's like, they must have them here, like on site, It was probably like, just 100% coincidence, but the timing was perfect, right? And then like, as I'm doing the fingerprinting, I was like, cool, this looks okay. It's my fingerprint. That's great. Well, what's the red stuff for? And they're like, oh, that's where your fingerprint matches up with the FBI's most wanted database. And I was like, I didn't do it. That's not me. No. And she starts laughing. She's like, everybody, she's like, you're not the first person to kind of freak out.
Wasn't like,
she's like, if it all turns red, then we have a problem. I'm like, okay, good. Good to know. Good to know. Yeah.
Seeing it all turn red and bolting out the door.
I was like, no red. Okay, we're good. No,
well, I just learned that sounds like it's actually easier to get like healthcare in like a foreign country, like in Europe for me, like another European country, than it is to most Americans to get healthcare in a different state. Over here, we have like and the national or European health card. If you have that on you, then they're gonna figure things out. Might be quite an expensive one if they have to fly you back, stuff like that. I wouldn't want to get involved in that.
Right.
But like you talked about, you have triplets. That must have been quite a crucial pivot.
Oh, absolutely.
Like how do you manage pivoting with 3 kids? Like I have like a joke I always say to people with kids, like depending on how many kids they have, that's how many full-time jobs they have.
Right.
Like each kid is nearly like a full-time job, from what I've heard.
Oh, it's definitely a thing. It's definitely a thing. And the correct answer is carefully. That's how you manage with 3 triplets, you know? Well, not 3 triplets, but just triplets in general. Because 3 triplets would be 9 kids, and that would just be silly, you know?
That's a lot.
Oh my god.
Not children.
So many times. Oh my gosh. So like the reason I do this particular, you know, what I do right now is flexibility, so I can go see my kids as much times as I want, and you know, I can be there for them and ready, because I want to make sure that, I mean, it's really, really important that I'm in my girls' lives, because I mean, every girl needs a dad, of course, right? And so it's really important to me that I'm in their lives, and it's important to them too, because I need to make sure that I have a good relationship with my kids and so on and so forth. Especially since, I'm divorced and stuff, so I don't get to see my kids as much as I'd really, really like to. In a perfect world, I could see them all the time, but that's unfortunately not my situation. So I'm maximizing the amount of time that I have, right? And it's pretty interesting when I was making the whole choice for health insurance, all that research I was doing, it's funny because it's like, just the way my brain works, the autism, ADHD, stuff like that, things are going a million miles an hour all the time. Sometimes the dots don't connect for a little bit, right? So after I'm doing all of this research and stuff like that, that's when I'm like, okay, cool. I think I figured health insurance out for me and the kids. That's okay. So that's on this side of the fence. On the other side of the fence is like, what in the snot am I going to do with my life, right? And so like any good engineer would, I made a spreadsheet to solve the world's problems, and made myself a cool little Ishikawa fishbone diagram. And on that diagram, I titled it "What Makes Nick Happy," because I'm like, hey, if I'm going to pivot, and I want to make sure that I change careers and so on and so forth again, right? I want to make sure that I'm doing something that makes myself happy, right? Because at the time I had like 650 plus resumes, applications, everything out there, and at the time it was nuts because everybody was like, "Look, dude, you have way too much experience and you're too expensive." And I'm like, "Look, that sounds really, really cool, but it does not help the next situation here, guys. We gotta figure something out, right?" And so I was like, "Well, maybe I have to reinvent myself again. I don't know." So at that point in time, that's when I got the Ishikawa diagram out, and I'm like, all right, cool. Let's put all the stuff on there, right, and just see what happens. So I went back to the beginning when I was 18, 19, and 18, 19. I was a fashion consultant for high fashion and women's fashion. Like, oh my gosh, I've got stories for days on that. It's the funniest thing in the universe, man. Like these ladies would come in. Like, I'm dead serious. And here I am, like this, 18, 19-year-old, like skinny punk rock kid with like 7.5-inch Liberty spikes, like everywhere, and multiple colors and stuff like that, in this like really fancy section of a ski area, right? And these ladies come in, they're like, okay, so this is Nick. You're going to have to listen to everything he says because he will help you get a man in Aspen. And it's just like the funniest thing. And so these ladies come over and they're like, this guy? And she's like, yeah. And so then this lady comes over and she's like, oh, well, I mean, what are you going to do for me? And I like look at her and I'm like, okay, cool. About size 4 petite, short princess cut, need here, Started grabbing stuff off the rack. I just handed it to her. And she was like, I haven't even told you anything about me. And I was like, you don't have to. Fitting room 3. And she's like, what? I was like, no. Fitting room 3. And so she comes out and she's like, oh my God, it looks so good. And then like her friends are like, see, this is why you're listening to Nick. And it was like, this is the stories like that for days, dude. Like, it's just the funniest thing. So I did that. While I was doing that, I've also been practicing biomechanics for about 26 years. So aligning skeletal structures, making sure everything's nice and aligned, hand making orthotics, which is like the same thing as a podorthist over here in the US would do basically. Over there, it's the same thing, but they call it something different for whatever reason. And so that's cool. So I was doing that. I didn't know the podorthist thing existed. If I did, I would have done that like a long time ago for fun, because I find that stuff very, very fun. But at any rate, I digress. So I was doing that, practicing biomechanics, doing the fashion stuffs in the winter, and then in the summer, continuing to practice biomechanics. But then I would run skateboard shops, inline skate shops, and over time, I brought them from like teeny tiny shops to like international recognition. That was really, really fun. And so that was cool, but that wasn't enough either, right? So continue to pivot, continue to say, okay, cool, I got to make sure my cup is filled. I got to go, right? So that wasn't enough. So at the time, I was also dancing, doing Lindy Hop, swing dancing. At the time, I was an internationally represented dancer. So I've danced with people from every continent on the planet, which is pretty darn cool, with the exception of Antarctica. So if you know somebody in Antarctica, let me know. I will check them off my list. It'll be lots of fun. So I was doing that, and that was great, right? And then the thing is like, sometimes when those opportunities are right in front of your face, you just don't really realize them so much, Specifically with me, like if somebody's not like, Nick, that's a good idea, you should probably look, I won't think twice, I'll just go, right? And so that's what happened, right? And so here I'm thinking, I'm dancing, I'm like, oh, this is like a great opportunity, and I thought when I was younger, I was like, hey, maybe I'm getting too old for my age. Like maybe I'm just, maybe teaching hundreds of people at one time how to dance and so on and so forth is like, I mean, I could make a legit career out of this, but I mean, I'm so young, like maybe I should, seize my youth, so to speak, right? So, and at the time I'd been invited to the Sydney Olympics and all these things and and that was great and that was fun too, and but I was like, okay, so I put a pause on that for a little bit, and I was like, let's do something a little bit more fun. So then I did rave stuffs, but then also I became a professional musician. So I've done gigs, tours, shows, albums, record labels, whole nine yards. So much fun. And so then I was doing that, but at the time I was still doing all that. I was still doing the skate shop in the summer and the winter stuff in the winter and the biomechanics and so on and so forth. And just like firing on all cylinders all the time, because that's what you got to do, right? And so after that, I ended up, I went to uni, graduated from uni. And then after that, I was like, all right, cool. I worked for Enterprise Rent-A-Car for a little bit. I mean, fantastic management program and office job and stuff like that. But I was like, I don't know, is this really what I want to do? Like, I mean, this isn't bad, working a lot of hours, but, I get, because, so when you're younger, and I don't know how it is in other parts of the country and stuff, but like when you're younger, they're like, anyway, I'm 43. Like when I was younger, they were like, Nick, you need to go get a degree. And after you get a degree, you'll get a job, and the job will have you for a long time, and you will, prosper and grow and I'm like, oh, that's great. Awesome. This is the plan. The older I get, I realize that is so not the plan, because the world is a very, very different place these days. And you gotta make sure that your mind is malleable enough to move from one spot to another. Right. And I think luckily, like what I did in my youth really prepped me a lot for this. And so as I'm at Enterprise for a little bit, I get this call, and these guys are like, hey, Nick, look, you were like, number one in sales for like 8 years at these particular places. And we're currently at the bottom of our tier. We need to be at the top of our tier. And we know you like bikes a lot, right? So, I mean, do you want to come work at a bike shop? And I'm like, I don't know, dude. And they're like, look, we'll pay you the same amount of money, except you just wear shorts and a t-shirt all day. And you talk about bikes every day. And you get to work on bikes every day. And you get an all expense paid trip every year to the mountains to go test bikes for the next year. And I was like, can you twist my arm a little harder on that one? Oh, yeah, it's fine. So that's what I went to do, bike shop stuff, and ran that for quite some time. That was really, really fun. And then while I was doing that, I was also, I'm also a master fitter as well. So I've been a master fitter for like 15 years, which is fun. So what that means is somebody can bring me a bicycle frame, and I can size it to their skeletal structure down to like the millimeter, which is really, really fun. And in order to do that, I have combined the skills that I learned from previous things, right? So I've combined the engineering from cycling, have done the applied physics just from riding and cycling as well, and then also the biomechanics in general. Put all three of those together in a concert with also the skill of being a master fitter, and that's how I was able to do what I was able to do, which is really, really fun. And did a whole bunch of things, like maybe 10,000 people here in Houston, not too crazy, and then a couple ex-Olympians, not a big deal. And it was just really, really, really fun. And at the time I was doing that, one of my buddies who I ride with was like, hey, Nick, I just left NASA to go work at this specific testing facility. And I could really use some help in my lab. And I'm like, oh, really? That's really cool. Once again, just not thinking, because the two dots did not connect themselves at this point in time. And he goes, Nick, you're really, really good at applied physics. I really, really enjoy your work and stuff like that. And you do engineering anyway. You just speak different words than I do. And I'm like, okay, that's fair. And he's like, so do you want to get paid to break things for a living? And I was like, excuse me, what? And he's like, do you want to get paid to break things for a living? And I was like, who would not want to? That's yes. Like, okay, awesome. Let's go. Right. And so I left that and did that. And then I went to go work at his laboratory. And the funny thing is like, I've got a marketing degree, like legitimately. I'm schooled in marketing, right? But I keeping your mind malleable is so important to me, right? Just keeping all those skills fresh. So I showed up to the thing, and then I realized too, which is hilarious, like some engineers actually make fun of people with marketing degrees because they're like, oh, if engineering's too difficult, go to a marketing degree. Ha 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 ha. Right? Which I thought was hilarious anyway. So here I am at the thing, the first person without an engineering degree to be at this particular firm. And so I was like, this is really cool. And so I picked the hardest thing in the building to start with. And it took me 5.5 years. So in about from day one, I was the little peon that was sweeping the floor, like Googling the words people were saying because I did not understand the words that were coming out of their mouth, and reading books the size of my head on a daily basis. I went from that guy in about 5.5 years, from that guy to essentially running one of the largest oil and gas testing facilities in the United States and becoming the subject matter expert for the Western Hemisphere of the entire planet on quite a few different things, which is pretty darn cool, man. And I had so much fun while I was doing it. Interesting environment, but so much fun, no less, when I was doing it. It was a good time. And then COVID came around. Patient zero dropped in Wuhan around September. And when you're up on that kind of tier, your team gets real small and you're real sensitive to global changes and so on and so forth. So between the global changes, between the market futures looking out, between like acquisitions and so on and so forth, the guys in England that was where my home office was. They were like, we got to start laying some people off. They looked to the Americas first, found a big fish, and kind of closed my department, which is really, really lame. So here I am, Mr. High up there in engineering, and then goes down to like essentially nothing. I was freaking out. It really, really was. It was really scary because, here I was able to support my family, my kids, everything like that. And it was good. And then came down to like nothing. And I was like, snot, what do I do? And that's when the resumes popped out and so on and so forth. That's when the research happened to get myself into, figure out what's going on with health insurance. I could figure out something with my family. And it was a long road. It really, really was, man. And then late December of 2020, I got contacted by some advisors. And then at that point in time, I was like, well, you know what? I think this might not be a bad idea, I mean, I was contacted by brokers earlier, but it was kind of squirrely what everything was saying. They're like, oh, you can contract 45, 50 to find the best needs for you. I was like, no, that's too salesy. I was like, I just can't, So anyway, the advisors contacted me. That worked okay. And in January 2020 is when I started my business, and which is Reclaim Your Premium. And the cool part about that is like, it was this neat sense of freedom, but also like, you got to do everything, like everything. So like the whole mental malleability that I'd been building over these past few years really, really came in handy for what I was doing, because not only am I, my billing, accounts receivable, but I'm also the marketing, the sales, the back end, to follow everything. And so I was like, beans, like, how am I going to do this? So I just did it. And the world was closing. And, in a world, especially in the oil and gas industry, where most people love to work face to face, that's the world that I was a part of at the beginning, that it came from in that specific instance. And so, I need to work face to face, and then the whole entire world closed out. And I'm like, snot, what do I do? Right. So I went to my first networking event in person, and I got to tell you, it was the most awkward thing I've ever been to. It was hilarious. Like, it just was like, everybody like felt like they were like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to say up here and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, wow, interesting, And then I discovered virtual networking, and went through a couple random people at first, and then found a massive networking organization at the time that was really, really great, and started networking all over the United States and then all over the world. And I was like, man, this is really cool, because you never know who knows who. You know what I mean? It's literally a huge, massive networking journey. And and later on, when I write, at some point in time, I will definitely be writing a book, more than likely, and it's going to be titled "On the Wings of the Universe," because honestly, just networking is opened so many doors that I would have never known even existed. It's opened the doors to so many people that I would have never known existed, including yourself, Mads, which is huge, And so it's really cool. Just put yourself out there and keep the curiosity and keep the mental malleability there, because if it's not there, if you're not growing, then you're dying. You know what I mean? It's kind of a definite, a fun duality to consider, but there's those things that are going on. And so with networking, so on and so forth, that's how that happened. First networking organization, over 100 countries big. That was great. That one kind of went by the wayside. And then at the end of the first quarter this year, I opened up a networking group with two friends, and that's currently, it's not too terrible. It's like 3, maybe 4 countries big right now, which isn't too bad. And that's how I met you, Mads, which is super cool. And like, I got to tell you, just keeping your mind open, because once again, you never know who knows who. I've gotten referrals from people in Australia to somebody in Michigan in the United States, or somebody in Bulgaria gave me a reference to somebody in Nevada in the United States. Like, the advent of technology is so incredibly cool, and it's made the world such a small place that, at least if you're in a face-to-face business, you need to consider the virtual aspect of it, because you're cutting yourself short if you don't. And then if you're in the virtual space, remember that people are back at work now, and so on and so forth. So you need to kind of salt and pepper it in, you know what I mean? Which is a big deal. So the idea of pivot, to me, pivot isn't necessarily something that I'm like, oh, I gotta do, da 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 da. It's something that I get to do, and it's something that I enjoy to do on multiple areas. And because I've stayed so mentally readily available over the years, my mind is like, pivot is just second nature for me at this point, which is huge. And so if you take anything away from this entire interview, is mental malleability is so incredibly important, and keep your mind moving, because when your mind's moving, you're open to more changes, you're open to more this and that, and honestly, an opportunity can come just in the snap of a finger. It can be there and gone, and if you don't see it, and who knows where that door could have gone. So look at all the doors, and don't be scared to look into the doors either, because some of them might not be cool, some of them might be awesome, who knows, right? But either way, it is knowledge gained, because you always have to learn from the past. The past and experience is the best teacher you'll ever come across in your entire lifetime, right? And then, of course, stay in the present, because today's called the present for a reason, right? You only got one brain, it's between your ears. Just stay there. If you focus on too much stuff that hasn't happened yet, you're going to develop fear and anxiety, and nobody wants that. You know what I mean? So stay in the present. That's why it's called the present, which is a big deal. So just a Scotia mindset for you there. So I hope that answered your question. Okay, Mads.
It does, and I think some women would argue that men have 2 brains, not only one. They kind of switch in between. We'll leave it there. Most people know what I'm referring to. Exactly. I think besides mental palpability, fucking hard word, that the main other lesson that I got from your story was just going with the flow. Not being too hooked up on everything needs to be figured out. I have to figure everything out by a specific time, or I gotta stick with this because, and just be open when an opportunity comes, see where it leads you. And kind of remove that fear aspect from it. Throughout this journey that you just outlined for us, what is some of like the main things you would say you use to maintain your mindset?
Yeah. So maintaining my mindset through the entire time in my later years was challenging for sure. In the beginning, it was easy peasy, just because ADHD is a fun thing, and youth plus ADHD, they do their thing, and the whole world's interesting, because why not? You know what I mean? As I got older and started running my own business, it was a big deal. There's a lot of mental challenges that came along. Personal challenges while at home that happened, and life changes at home that happened as well. And and honestly, you gotta stick to your guns. It's a big deal. For example, like the first year I was in business, I'm not my ex-fiance was like, man, if this isn't making you money immediately, you probably should do something else. And I'm like, well, these things sometimes take time, and it's happening, and it's going, and it's working, and it's gonna get there, it's gonna go, all right. And everybody in my family was like, nah, Nick, this is not making you like 100, just, if you're not getting an instant return on investment, it's not a good idea. I'm like, no, just keep going, right? And I was like, I gotta go. And so I kept that mindset and kept going, kept that positivity moving and grooving, right? One thing that helped me tremendously while I was doing that is networking specifically, right? And then, because it's like sometimes with, just the way my brain works and stuff, like I don't realize my facial expressions when I go into a room or whatever. And I don't realize, that I might not be talking enough, or that I might ask like questions that are really intrusive, but not really realizing that they are, And so being on camera a lot really helps because I can look at myself and go, oh yeah, I forget to smile. And so the whole first year was me practicing smiling when I'm talking to you. It sounds so stupid, but like honestly though, it's a legit thing. Like practice smiling when you're things, because that smile is more contagious than a cold. You know what I mean? And it will breed very, very positive vibes, which is a cool thing without getting too woo woo about it. But you got to increase your frequency. It's a big deal, So mindset wise, that helped me out tremendously in the start. And then also the stick to itiveness of saying, I gotta stay at this one specific thing, and I gotta go and keep changing, because once you start building something, you can build, say, hey, I'm going to build a house. Wonderful. And if you don't build a foundation, that house is going to fall over. Right. And then, but if you build a fantastic foundation, and it takes you a little bit to build that foundation, but when you build it, it's super solid. You know that anything you build on top of that isn't going to fall over because the foundation is solid. And that's the idea that I kept reminding myself of. Right. And then through challenges, of course, I went through, there was, I did a spot of, from basically like mid 2021 is when some incredibly huge life changes happened, hence the ex-fiance situation. And from like middle of 2021 all the way to early 2022 was an incredibly in-depth, deep dive into my mind to figure out how thoughts work, why they work, what comorbidities I have with the ADHD. Like, so I took a whole bunch of tests to see which ones are there and so on and so forth. And without going too deep into it, because this is a different topic for a different day probably, but I ended up making myself a mind palace, which is cool, and sorting through a bunch of different things, fixing my depression. And that was fantastic. So I ended up actually on depression medication for maybe two and a half weeks, maybe 3 weeks, super tops, before I figured it out and taught my mind how to work with things. And, and that mindset of just continuing to go forward no matter what is what kept me going. Right. And, of course, after my mental health journey, like, I'm obviously definitely in a better spot than I was previously, of course, and it is a quick reminder that once again, every single little bitty teeny weeny thing you do in your entire life is meant to teach you something. You got to make sure that you're open enough and ready enough to accept the advice that the past is giving you. Because if you're not open enough and ready enough to accept the advice the past is giving you, then you might be doomed to repeat it, one, but then also two, it might close the door for a future opportunity, right? Which is a huge deal. So that was a big thing for me, just to keep going and keep remembering that everything I've done in the past, in the future, in the past is here to teach me something, whatever it is, wherever it is, and just take those lessons as they come, because every little teeny weeny piece of information and advice is valuable.
True. And one of the good things actually to remember that, well, I haven't been the best at fucking have to dig this out over 9 different wires. I have this journal. It's basically like a success journal. Write things down I'm proud of. I'm not the best at remembering, but it works. It puts you in like that right mindset. It trains your mind to actually think about these things. And you don't necessarily have to write them down. It's as much about training your mind to actually start thinking about these and telling you these things that you actually do well compared to all other things that you suck at, which there's a lot of people's natural tendencies, which again, a completely not a subject for another episode, because that's a very big subject.
Absolutely.
A good book about it is called The Chimp Paradox, if you want to get a bit more of insight of how the human brain works and that whole fear stage, and how it still goes to its very primal basis, which is why we're in that mind space. And you're right saying that we're not going to have time to talk about the mind palace. So if people want to know about it, definitely let us know down below. Because for people watching, I've probably seen the yellow shirt filled with bananas. That's because Nick has a nice saying of going bananas. Yes, there's fucking bananas everywhere. This guy apparently loves bananas, if you couldn't tell. But, like, what does it mean? Like, going bananas, like, what does that mean to you?
Yeah. So it's actually very interesting you mentioned that, because so the bananas branding and then the actual going bananas, true story, actually two different things at the moment, right? So so the bananas is like, like I was saying previously, keep your ears open, right? And keeping your ears open to change is so important. So as I'm networking, doing my thing, so on and so forth, I've got a virtual background at the time. And it's, I hand drew the words, reclaim your premium, this really fun thing. So, at the time when I first started my business, they were like, who is this guy? Da, 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 da. And, I was thinking I'm cheeky because I like to ride bikes, right? And because, cheekiness. I was like, hey, I'm the insurance peddler, but Pedaleer because I like to ride bikes. After respelling that about 450 times, I was like, I should probably rethink this, Then I was, that was going on in my head. As that was going on in my head, I realized, because I was open to listening enough, as I was networking, people were like, they weren't necessarily saying, hey, that's Nick, you should meet Nick. They were saying, that's the Reclaim Your Premium guy. That's Mr. Reclaim Your Premium. You don't want to talk to the Reclaim Your Premium guy. I think his name's Nick, pretty sure. But the Reclaim Your Premium guy, that's who you want to talk to. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, snot. I mean, if they're going to know me as this, dude, go all in and own it. Just own it, right? Those are my two most important words for business. Own it, right? Especially marketing and branding. Own it. So at that point in time, I ditched everything and rebranded 100% company-wide across the board, all social media platforms. Everything is at Reclaim Your Premium, except for LinkedIn. It's still Nicholas Davis Houston. Because if somebody's going to know you for something, that's a big deal. Your brand is what people say about you when you leave the room, right? And if people are saying when I leave the room, they're saying Reclaim Your Premium, I'm sure it's not going to direct them. I would love to direct them there because that's what's being said, right? So I did that, listening. That's great, right? Then here I am on a networking call, so on and so forth, and I'm hosting it, and one of my co-hosts shows up early, and she's like, "Oh, Nick's here. Bananas, bananas, bananas." I was like, "Oh, well, that's weird. Do I say bananas a lot or something?" And she's like, "Yeah, like every other word." And I'm like, "Oh, that's really weird. I never noticed, man. That's pretty bananas." Oh, I guess I do. Idiosyncrasies. You never really realize them until somebody points them out, right? So I didn't think too much of it. And a couple weeks later, it was her birthday, so I had a stock image of bananas that I was using from one of my previous videos. So I just popped it up there from my background. She thought it was the coolest thing since sliced bread. So I was like, okay, that's cool. That was neat. I made her day. I was happy, and that's cool, right? And then later, I was at this massive Zoom call. It was a few months after this massive Zoom call, about 460 plus people. I'm essentially like invisible, which is no big deal. Totally fine with that, right? But then I thought about it. I was like, just for shits and giggles, I think I'm going to do something fun here. So I turned up my camera, turned up my microphone, went to my editing software, put that bananas background up, put some animations across the top of the screen, and I was like, you know what? This is my new Zoom background, just for fun, just to see what happens, right? Market test, because you gotta always market test, always. And so I went to go market test, brought it back to the call, and within about 30 or 40 seconds, people started getting their faces like really close to the Zoom screen. They were like looking around. And then about 60 seconds through, they're like, "Hi, Mr. Banana Man. How's it going? I like bananas too. Bananas are so cool. Hey, look, this guy's got bananas in his background. It's awesome. Hey, check this out. I was like, oh, that's so cool. I love you, event." And I was like, there might be something to this. So keeping the mind open, right? So then I was like, I'll take it around the world and network and see what happens. And I'll take some data points. Took some data points, so on and so forth. And when I came back from 4 months of research on that, was I did it with the networking first before I introduced my clients, right? So I came back with this research and I was like, look, I think we're going to do this because first thing is it breaks the ice, and because everybody knows about bananas, even if you don't like them, you've probably seen one or heard one at some point in time, right? The second thing is it inspires happiness. Happiness is so important. Happiness and joy are in short supply sometimes on this planet, right? And so anytime I can put my 2 cents in to help that, 100% down, absolutely, right? The third thing is it inspires completely terrible jokes, which I am super, super down with, to be honest with you. I mean, as a girl dad, like the dad jokes are real. I'm just to let you guys know. It's a big deal. And I know you guys know if you have children, you know, right? And then the fourth thing, of course, is heaven forbid it's very, very memorable, which is cool. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. So I leaned into it 100% and I showed it to my client. My first client looked at it and he looked at it and he's like, you're cheeky. I get it. Oh, insurance is bananas. And I'm like, why, yes, it is. But choosing the right plan doesn't have to be. And in my head, I was like, because I just made a motto, which is cool. And he was like, no, I just made a sentence. But so that's my motto now is, insurance is bananas. Choosing the right plan is bananas, but, or insurance is bananas, but choosing the right plan doesn't have to be. Right. So I leaned into that 100%. And I'm the only person on the planet that does health insurance. It brands itself with bananas, which is fun. And so, and the cool thing about that is there's bananas everywhere, which is fun. And so there's a bit of, NLP associated with that as well. So people would call me. They started calling me from all over the world all the time, just sending me messages and stuff like this guy in South Kent. I was like, oh my God, I saw this guy in a banana suit run across the street. I thought about you. And somebody's like, hey, there's somebody on my flight with a banana suit. I thought about you. And then this guy in California was like, hey man, I went to my grocery store and I just gotta let you know, this is really cool for me. Like I looked in the produce and they just repainted something that said it's fresh produce, go bananas. And I immediately thought of you and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I gotta call Nick, right? This dude in India, like the funniest thing in the world. I love this guy so much. He's so cool. Like I was doing a one-on-one with this guy in India, right? And I was like, hey, what's up, man? And he's like, hello. He's like, hey, have you ever done a one-on-one with anybody in India? And I'm like, no, I mean, yeah, but I mean, maybe. And he's like, but have they done this before to you? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe. And so he's like, so he pulls out this plate. I can't even make this up. He pulls out a plate on his table, his kitchen table. He pulls out a plate filled with bananas, and he goes, Indian banana. He's like, okay, we're gonna do one-to-one now. And I'm like, this is fantastic. This is beautiful, So leading to the bananas has been really, really fun, and it's because that inspires happiness and creativity is a huge deal, right? So when I started public speaking last year, I went on stage at the University of Michigan, and my public speaking topic was how to go bananas, which is fun, and surprisingly, right? So that's why when you asked about going bananas, it's actually like it's a philosophy and it's an act, which is fun, right? The philosophy principle of it encompasses 3 different sections, So essentially, it's taking down your mask, being your true authentic self, which is a big deal, and then choosing to be happiness, making happiness a choice, and choosing positivity and choosing to be positive, because they're both conscious choices, not emotional reactions, which is a huge deal, right? And then the third thing is don't forget to breathe, right? Like the spots between the spots, the spaces between the spaces are oftentimes the most important spaces in your life. So focus on the spaces between the spaces and you'll be good, right? That's something to elaborate in a different chat, possibly, but that's so to truly answer your question in both facets, that's both sides of going bananas.
Appreciate it. I appreciate it. Well, if the audience, the people listening, watching this, want to learn more about Nick, where can they reach you?
Yeah. So you can. Everybody's got access to Google. Most people have access to Google, I think. So if you type in 3 words, reclaim your premium.
If they're watching this, I would assume they have access to Google.
I would assume they would, yeah. You never know. Countries are different, Yeah.
Let us know if you don't. I would be very curious if you found this without access to Google, actually.
You're like, listener side quest. Do you have access to Google? Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, you can type 3 words into Google and you'll find me, right? I'm almost the entire first page. So reclaim your premium. Reclaim your premium. Type those 3 words into Google. I'm most of the first page. You can find several of the podcasts I've been on. You can find, I don't know if my TV appearances are on there. You might find some magazines I've been in. You'll find my LinkedIn profile, Facebook, Instagram. Everything's underneath Reclaim Your Premium. It all is there, which is really, really cool. You'll find ways to contact me, message me, all of those things, and it'll be there.
So definitely go Google, Reclaim Your Premium. I'll leave it down below. You can just copy paste it as well. Thank you very much for taking the time to come on the Business Library and have a conversation with me today, Nick. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was an honor and a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me. You're awesome, man.